We'll also take a look at what is happening right here locally, and importantly, we get to that bit of entertainment. We know very well that Fridays are all about easing up from the formalities that come along with, the week. And it's time to just loosen up and enjoy the moment. Of course, music is key, and we'll be having Nancy to bring us more entertainment later on the broadcast. But before that, I'm here to take you through the newspapers, take you through the stories that we have prepared, and so much more. Delve deep into some bit of discussion in regards to the issues that are taking center stage. That is on the current affairs segment. So, karibu sana. And as always, I'd ask you to interact with us or send in your comments or engage with us. Hashtag Morning Cafe at TV47 at Linda_. As we proceed, we also can stream live on Facebook and stream live on Periscope, that is Twitter, and equally stream live on YouTube. Drop your comments right there. I'll be here to sample some of them. Importantly, you can call us. The number will be rolling down on the screen, and also the SMS short code will be down there for you to drop in your SMSs. We get to interact. That's the most beautiful part of mornings. We do lots of coffee, we enjoy, and together we kickstart the day on a very good note. So we are coming to some bit of good news right here. We consider it good news because for the very first time, recoveries in Kenya have gone, simply highest as of yesterday's numbers that were singled out, and 570 people were announced to have recovered in the last 24 hours as of yesterday's address, with the highest number being from home-based quarantine facilities, something that was looked at as, a way of dealing with COVID-19 that would not be very effective. So Zainab Mohammed has the details on this particular story.
The 570 recoveries is the highest record of recoveries in a single day since the first case of COVID-19 was reported, many of whom the ministry says were in the home-based quarantine protocol.
170 patients have recovered from this disease. Out of this, 512 have been on home-based care, while 58 are from our various facilities, bringing the total number of recoveries so far to 3,638.
This as discussions of reclosure of the country emerges due to a surge in infections witnessed after President Uhuru Kenyatta lifted the ban on cessation of movement in Nairobi, Mombasa and Mandera counties on the 6th of July.
The same people who are here saying whether we made the right decision to open up are the same people who, prior to the 6th, were also telling us we are doing a very bad thing for locking up Nairobi, Mombasa, and the other counties.
According to statistics from the Ministry of Health, the total number of infections in the country since the reopening has surpassed 3,900 cases, with Nairobi, Kiambu and Machakos leading the number of infections among the 47 counties. However, the Health CS Mutahi Kagwe says the surge is well within the projections of the ministry.
The issue is that are we noticing anything more than we expected? And the truth is that we are not. This is exactly the modeling that was done. These are the figures that we expected.
Mutahi further says Kenyans were on the forefront in pleading with President Uhuru Kenyatta to reopen the country. Therefore, it is their duty to ensure the curve flattens, even with the relaxation of the COVID-19 containment measures.
Watu walisema wanataka kufunguliwa. Si hata nilisikia waliimba ile wimbo ya Mandela. Freedom is coming. Ikaja on the 6th. Si ikuja 6th. Freedom ilikuja on the 6th. But freedom comes with responsibility.
And in the question of whether or not the country should be closed,
for me and the ministry, we continue to beg you. We continue to insist that you stay alive. That's our job, is to ask you, please, stay alive. Don't die. Usikufe, tafadhali.
A total number of 3,895 samples were tested in the last 24 hours, rising the cumulative samples to 229,390 samples. Out of these, 421 people tested positive, making the total number of infections in the country 11,673. 8 people, however, were reported to have succumbed to the virus, rising the total death tally in the country to 217. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Well, this is the unfortunate part of yesterday's address. The numbers of COVID-19 cases have been on the increase in Kiambu County, especially after President Uhuru Kenyatta lifted the ban on cessation of movement. The county, which is termed as Nairobi's bedroom, has overtaken a hotspot of COVID-19, that is Mombasa County. Mwangi Maina looks at the numbers in the two counties.
Since the 4th of this month, Kiambu County has overtaken Mombasa by reporting the highest number of COVID-19 cases in a single day, just behind Nairobi. Apart from Gatundu North Sub-County, all other sub-counties in Kiambu have reported at least a COVID-19 case.
The last 7 days have been very, very stressful to us. And I sincerely want to thank our frontline health workers, led by our CC, Dr. Murega. It has been an extremely stressful week. We started off with a single digit, and we've not only gone to double digit, but double digit that are increasing at an increasing rate.
The infection graph has been growing exponentially. On July 4th, Kiambu reported 27 cases, while Mombasa reported 23 cases. The following day, 20 cases were reported, and the numbers keep rising. On the other hand, Mombasa County has been recording low numbers, especially after the lifting of cessation of movement into and out of the county. Since July 6th, the county reported 9 cases, and the numbers keep dropping in a county that was once reported as a COVID-19 hotspot. Mombasa seems to have its way with COVID-19, especially after the lifting of travel restrictions. Since the travel restrictions were lifted, Mombasa has reported 261 cases, while Kiambu has reported 392 cases. As of today, Mombasa has recorded 1,783 cases, while Kiambu is number 3 with 640 cases.
Nairobi continues to lead with 6,491 cases, followed by Mombasa with 1,783, and Kiambu at 640 people.
Meanwhile, 3 police officers from Ruiru Police Station in Kiambu County and 1 from Karuri Police Station in Kiambu have tested positive of the virus. 6 remandees at the Ruiru GK prison have tested positive, and 2 from the Thika prison have also tested positive. 68 remandees at the Thika prison are waiting for their COVID-19 results. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, this even as the Ministry of Health has been tasked to explain the credibility of the tests that are being conducted right here in the country and across different laboratories. And of course, Lancet Kenya is equally on the spot. Several patients tested positive, only to be tested negative a few days in a different laboratory, pushing that to a close of numerous laboratories here. We'll be delving bit into understanding that as we proceed. But elsewhere, on some bit of politics, the changes in the House Committee's membership has been termed as a strategy to clear the way for the Building Bridges initiative. However, the Deputy President William Ruto continues to play cool even after his allies were discharged from powerful House committees, as Joash Ansari reports.
Changes in House committees have led to Deputy President William Ruto's allies placed in less influential House committees in the recent House leadership changes. The changes have been termed as a strategy to clear the way for the Building Bridges initiative. The changes have been termed as a strategy to clear the way for the Building Bridges initiative. The committees that had major changes are those that will have a major role in propelling and defining the BBI's future in the House. The Justice and Legal Committee and the Budget and Appropriation Committee are among those committees. The Deputy President on his Twitter account has, however, urged all members of Parliament not to be divided but work together in serving the people. Ruto further quoting a Bible verse in the book of Colossians chapter 3 verse 23, which says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for God, not human masters." In what appears as a BBI strategy, President Kenyatta and former Premier Raila Odinga initiated the process through the famous handshake. The reconstituted Justice and Legal Affairs Committee now comprises key ODM legislators led by Otiende Amolo, who will now serve as the vice chair. Amolo will be deputizing Kangema MP Muturi Kigano, who is BBI friendly. Otiende says the task ahead is heavy, but he believes that the JLAC committee will deliver. Other ODM MPs to serve in JLAC will include Suna East legislator Junet Mohamed, Peter Kaluma, and Anthony Oluoch.
There is nothing unique about the idea that the leadership of JLAC is shared. In the history of this country, whenever you want a process to run smoothly, you must always try and find a way of having the majority and the minority, or the government and the opposition, as the case may be. And I believe that is the anchorage of this committee right now.
Other changes were effected at the Budget Committee, with Kikuyu MP Kimani Ichung'wa being discharged and replaced by Kieni MP Kanini Kega. The committee will be crucial in the BBI process. During the tabling of the names of MPs in various committees, nominated MP David Sankok said the members in JLAC are key in taking forward the BBI agenda.
Honorable Speaker, I'm particularly happy because of the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee and the delegation.
I want you today to be brief.
Delegated legislation, Honorable Speaker Committee, because as we move forward, we have the BBI report coming into the House, and we need members who can really move forward this particular report, Honorable Speaker.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Two former managers at the Kenya Pipeline Authority, Charles Kiprotich and Josephat Kipkoech, have been released on a 700,000 Kenyan shillings cash bail, or a bond of 3 million shillings, after denying charges against them. Now, the two managers have been charged with 3 accounts of abuse of office, making documents without authority, and failing to comply with procurement laws. They have been ordered to submit their travel documents and refrain from visiting their offices. All right, now President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive to his delivery unit to purchase hospital beds from 2 youthful innovators has drawn mixed reactions on social media. This is after another innovators failed to make it in the list of those who benefit in the plan. Lauren Nanok met with Meshach Otieno, who says he was sidelined by the president.
Just after President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered the Presidential Delivery Unit to purchase 500 beds from 2 young innovators from Kiambu, has raised mixed reactions. This is after another young innovator, Meshach Otieno, made hospital beds which some Kenyans have termed as better than what Uhuru ordered to be purchased. Otieno, however, claims he was sidelined.
Ile kitu sikusikia mzuri sana, sababu mimi ndo nilikuwa wa kwanza kutangazwa dunia mzima. Meshach Otieno in Juja, na nimeshindwa dakika mwisho, imekuwa sijui Kiambu, sijui Juja, sijui Thika. Sasa hiyo kitu ndio iliniingilia sana, ambayo najua itaisha, lakini kwangu nilikuwa najua watu wataitengeneza hizo bed wengi.
Sisi tulikuwa na mshtuko sana tukiona kitanda yetu ndio ilikuwa kitanda ya kwanza kutangazika dunia mzima, lakini sisi wenyewe tukakuja tukasikia mtu mwingine ndio kina akakuja akapewa tenda. Huyo alikuja nyuma yetu.
Otieno, who runs a workshop in Juja, sells his bed for 25,000 shillings. A piece by Mungai is sold for 65,000 shillings. Otieno's bed are purely metallic, while Mungai uses both metal and wood. This raises questions on which is the recommended bed for hospital use. Otieno has been an artisan for 5 years. Mungai, who vied for the Kiambu senatorial seat in 2017, on the other hand, has been criticized, with some claiming it's not his original work.
Okay, now everything is like it's done, so now we are waiting for the certificate. Tomorrow morning, then the prime engineers will come, so by tomorrow we will know when to start the work. We posted on social media, so it went viral, so maybe that's how it got to the president.
For now, Otieno hopes his beds will be purchased with the government or the private hospitals.
Tunaomba serikali impe kazi hata yeye. Hata ni Mkenya kama wengine. Ni vibaya sana. Huyu jamaa amefanya kazi mzuri sana. Anasona kitu hata ukiwa kwa barabara, ukiona unatamani. Unakuja hapo unasema, "Enyewe uko sawa jamaa."
Nanok Lauren, TV 47.
Well, I hope his cry is heard too. Now, there has been an increase in the number of postpartum depression across the globe, with at least 2 in every 10 women have been diagnosed with postpartum depression, and of course, however, many women do not know that they are suffering from depression, and as Immaculate Ajwang now tells us more in regards to this particular issue.
Mimi nilikuwa mpaka naogopa kushika mtoto.
Then wife just goes bonkers. The woman I must also give it to him. He stayed, he was here 5 straight weeks.
Having a baby can bring about a lot of strong feelings, from excitement and joy to fear and anxiety. It can also result to something you might not expect to happen after such an amazing event: postpartum depression. A number of mothers experience postpartum depression, commonly mistaken to be baby blues after childbirth. Many women feel confused about struggling with sadness after the joyous event of adding a new family member, and often don't talk about it. Meet Doris Mudhoni, a mother of 1 and a survivor of postpartum depression. Doris underwent postpartum depression immediately she gave birth to her son Aiden. From a distance, Doris is a jovial lady and full of life.
I was like, because my baby was not breastfeeding, he couldn't breastfeed. Like I was trying all I could. Nilikuwa namweka tu hapo, he couldn't. So that was the first thing nilikuwa na stress. Another thing, my baby was like the skin. I didn't know, like when babies are born, they have a rough skin which is supposed to peel off. So I could touch my baby's skin and she was like polythene. Ilikuwa na stress. Another thing, the hospital bed. I just felt like it was too small. So I had that fear, like if I sleep with the baby is going to fall.
Despite having an immense love for her son, the depression affected her relationship with the innocent boy.
Much I was trying to put on a brave face, I couldn't. Like at night I just used to stay there and cry the whole time, and I didn't even hata sikuwa nataka kushika mtoto. As in I feel like, okay, is this like what I signed myself up to? Like mtoto, as in it's ni stress yani.
Meet Jen Mikwa, a mother of 3 whose story is similar to Doris' story. After her second birth, Jen underwent postpartum depression. Talking about these emotions, changes and challenges is one of the best ways to cope.
For me it was something that, a disease that came to interfere with my time with my baby. Because at that time when I was going through it and having it, I was not able to function as a mother should. I was not able to love my babies as I was supposed to. So it was very frustrating and very hard at the same time, because it's something you don't have power over. It just comes, just like a disease, malaria and others are disease. You can't just snap out of it, contrary to what people think, that just snap out of it.
The country has recorded an increase in the number of mental illnesses during the COVID-19 pandemic, with 1 in every 10 Kenyans living with mental illnesses such as postpartum depression. Many parents in Kenya suffer silently from postpartum depression without their knowledge. With the illness affecting female parents more than male parents are also victims to this illness.
Let's say that 1 in every 10 men undergo postpartum depression. But because of the ego of the man, they don't understand it is postpartum depression.
Having a baby is stressful, no matter how much you look forward to it or how much you love your child. Considering the sleep deprivation and lack of time for yourself, it's no surprise that a lot of new moms feel like they're on an emotional roller coaster.
You normally don't do such things. Sit now.
Talking about these emotions, changes, and challenges is one of the best ways to cope up with postpartum depression. Immaculate Oma, TV 47.
I didn't realize she's
Thanks, Immaculate, for that story. Now, Kajiado County government will be required to pay about 800 million Kenyan shillings to Kilimanjaro Club after a business wrangle which has lasted for 15 years. According to Auditor General's report, the then Kajiado Municipal Council made an agreement with the Kilimanjaro Club which barred any other club or hotel to build near the designated area. Appearing before the Senate Public Accounts and Investments Committee, Kajiado Governor Joseph Ole Lenku was put to task to explain the monster which is siphoning county monies. Lenku urging the committee to intervene. The Sam Ongeri-led committee has, however, declined directing him to seek interpretation of the law.
And you have reported that it's now 800 million. Actually, from where I'm sitting, I'm alarmed. What are you doing? This is a monster. Kajiado County, under your watch, under your leadership, will be swallowed by this monster. So, can you demonstrate to us how you will slay this monster? Because this is the biggest monster that has been clothed under the legitimacy of litigation in court. And once it is affirmed, I can assure you, everybody in Kajiado is unlikely to get service. Because if it is ballooning or it is going snowballing at this pace, within a very foreseeable future, it will be your entire appropriation.
I don't know, when governor says the matter is still in court, and he says we have already made a provision of 100 million to honor the award. Is it the money meant for the legal fees for the lawyers who will, because the matter is pending in High Court, or you want to pay the award?
It's a court award, and this is left to escalate from 300 million to 670 million. What can you explain, Governor? Because this is a huge sum of money that will go to put up water projects in Kajiado, literally the whole county.
Now the county government of Kajiado and Kilimanjaro Safari Club is a difficult issue because of the court rulings that has taken place. And hence, in this financial year, the county government made a provision in this budget of 100 million as part of starting to honor the court orders. So, yes, that contingent liability was not disclosed earlier, but it is now properly captured in the county government accounts. I know you had indicated through nodding your head that no goes on, but really, one company should not be allowed to swallow a county government.
Senate is not a prosecutorial body. It's a body for legislation and defending the interests of the county government and the oversight rule.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has once again requested the European Union to cancel the debts owned by African countries. President Kenyatta was speaking during a virtual meeting of European and African leaders together on the proposed establishment of the Africa Mediterranean European Foundation. David Muthoka with the details. And as institutions of higher learning are preparing to reopen in September, technical colleges in the country are grappling with technical practical courses due to social distancing, noting that they require closer interaction during practical lessons, as Andrin Kilimi now reports.
Social distancing is proving to be a major challenge in institutions of higher learning, which offer practical lessons, even as the institutions as well as technical and vocational training centers continue to prepare for reopening in September.
In clothing and technology, somebody is teaching you want to show a process. Now showing that process to somebody who is there, it's not the same as when that somebody is near. So that one also, I think it will be affected.
A spot check at Nyeri National Polytechnic, where preparations are in top gear, Chief Principal Anne Mwangi raised concern, stating that practical lessons are more interactive, thus giving them headache to practice social distancing to curb COVID-19 as directed by the Ministry of Health and Education.
In the checklist that we were given by the ministry, we are supposed to have a sanatorium or a sick bay whereby any either trainee or a trainer who develops signs. Signs, I mean maybe the temperature is high, the person is sneezing, or he has a flu, they can be isolated there.
At Mukurweini Technical College, the principal Patrick Mushemi echoed similar sentiments, saying that the practical instruments are used by more than one student, but they will be fumigating regularly to curb the pandemic.
Immediately after a cohort clears in a workshop, we are supposed to fumigate the place with the workshop before the other cohort comes.
To maintain social distance, the institution is rehabilitating 14 classrooms at a neighboring Gikondi Primary School that will be used as lecture rooms by the institution that has a population of 1,500 students. Andrin Kilemi for TV 47.
Elsewhere, Rwandan ex-Prime Minister Dr. Pierre Damien Habumuremyi was yesterday arraigned before Gasabo Primary Court for a pre-trial hearing where he is being accused of issuing bounce checks worth millions and breach of trust, as Diana Iriza now gives us the details.
The two charges the former Prime Minister Habumuremyi is facing were allegedly committed between 2018 and 2019 when he was the rector and owner of Christian University of Rwanda. Habumuremyi has denied all charges leveled against him and has requested the court through his lawyers that his trial be heard in camera. The judges have made the decision to make their final verdict on Tuesday, the 21st of July. Habumuremyi was arrested earlier this month, few days after his university, the Christian University of Rwanda, CHUR, was closed by the Ministry of Education. He is said to have accumulated hundreds of millions of francs in debt to different suppliers to the university that was at the time of its closure operating two campuses, one in Kigali and another one in Karongi district. The university management was last year accused of not paying the teaching staff and other employees, which prompted an audit from the Higher Education Council. Diana Iriza, Kigali, Rwanda.
And that story by Diana Iriza will be taking us for a short break. Morning Cafe will be right back with much more as we take a look at the newspapers and later on to current affairs. Remember, it's Friday. It's all about entertainment. So keep writing to us. Tell us what music you'd want us to play. And we'll be here to ensure that we got you covered. After this break, we're right back with more.
Congratulations to all government-sponsored students who have been selected to join Mount Kenya University. We welcome you.
Taking center stage across the world, and of course captured on the front page of the People Daily. Ruto takes a jab at Uhuru over house changes, captured on page 6. We'll delve deep into it, of course, on page 6, something that we've also touched on our previous review of the stories that we had. And testing a crisis puts corona war at risk. This as a state has quietly closed 20 centers for collecting samples across the country, saying it has shifted its focus to confirmed cases, but the medics are accusing authorities of abandoning the vulnerable Kenyans at their hour of need. This has been captured on page 7 of the People Daily and KEMRI laboratories handle infectious samples, and the possibility of infection is very high. So this is the interest of protecting the public. Remember the projections that came from KEMRI the other day, of course, contrary to what has been given to us by the Ministry of Health. And just taking a look at the numbers as of yesterday, 11,673 total cases we have so far since the first time we recorded the first case, and 3,638 have so far recovered, while 217 deaths is what we have as of yesterday, and 230,096 samples have been tested so far. We recorded 421 cases as of yesterday's address, and getting the samples, or getting this number from a sample of 3,896 people that were tested. And medical worker takes a sample. This is a picture of just one of them doing that. And that aside, as of course captured on page 7, we also have a story here on the front page speaking about the kazi mtaani, and of course expanded some more on page 4 of the People Daily. Bribery and nepotism claims stock at kazi mtaani programs. That's pretty much unfortunate. While youth claim the chiefs and local politicians are using the projects to enrich themselves. As always, the government will be tasked to ensure that there's sustainability on this particular project. Remember, upon its commissioning, President Uhuru Kenyatta called upon politicians not to politicize this, but of course, instead of politicizing it, they have decided that corruption is going to be the name of the game. Shame of members of parliament who equally skipped all committee sittings. There are about 10 of them, 10, 20 there, that have been captured or expounded some more on this particular report. And here it is on page 2 of the People Daily. Survey compiled by various committee clerks revealed that out of 29 House teams, 26 met for up to 100 times, and expounded here some more, listing less than 20 sittings, including that of Trade Lions selections. And the survey compiled by various committee clerks showed that out of the 29 Houses teams, 26 held between 40 to 100 sittings during the period under review. And MPs who did not attend any committee sitting include Aisha Jumwa, George Aladwa of Makadara, Tom Kajwang of Ruaraka, Alexander Kosgei of Mgwen, Alfred Sambu of Webuye East, Maison Lemoshomo, Samburu County, Enoch Kibunguchi of Likuyani, Rose Muse of Makueni, Abdi Tepo, Isiolo South, and Christopher Nakulenu of Turkana North. This is pretty much unfortunate. Remember the other time also there was that report by Mzalendo highlighting how much some members of parliament have not been interested in contributing anything at the level of the House, just begging the question of how much their people feel represented at that particular time. There are constitutional role, that one of oversight, representation and legislation is key and is highly dependent on how much they attend these committees and how much they contribute to the issues that are being presented in the House. Kitui dismisses claims linking him to attempt to dethrone Wetangula, of course, on talks of the Mulembe Nation and how much they are determined to unify themselves. Also, a majority of them coming out, registering their interest on wanting to be president come 2022. So, Muheza Kitui is out here saying that those are just mere shenanigans and talks. He is focused on coming, of course, to the country to relax and, most importantly, meet political functionaries who are going to be instrumental in his bid in the event that he's going to be out there, declaring his interest on any, course, if it is the presidential course come 2022. He's expected to play a crucial role if he's not going to be a candidate for that matter. And crossing over to a different page, and page 4, bribery, nepotism claims stock kazi mtaani. That story that has been captured on the front page, and leaders now accused of graft, favoritism, and other improprieties in the first phase of national exercise. That is the kazi mtaani. And as you can see right here, it's pretty much unfortunate. There have been talks and complaints. We had David Mudoka working on that story the other day. And clearly, in as much as the names of these youths have been taken so that they would get this offer, so that they would be able to be part and parcel of the kazi mtaani that is set to help, make better their lives, it is obvious that, yes, the shenanigans will always find their way in. And in this case, the chiefs are being accused of acting crafty, some of them getting the names and also, bringing in their people who are not also part of certain regions, just bringing their people from different parts of the country to get this advantage or to shine with this, which is something that, of course, has caused loads of eyebrows and youths again crying out foul. Probably one of the many programs that have been set towards helping the youths out there that again is going to be flouted as it seems. An NHIF top brass summoned by Senate over COVID-19 charge, and the senators have summoned the top management of the National Hospital Insurance Fund to explain why they cannot or they are not covering COVID-19 testing charges for the hotels and restaurants staff. Remember, they were told upon reopening it is important that they test, or all the staffs that will be working at that time should test. And this is after it emerged that hoteliers have been asked by the government to bear the brunt or the cost of testing their staff, ranging from about 2,000 to 4,000 commercial rates for COVID-19 testings. And there are about 10,000 to 13,000 amounts the hoteliers say are extremely too high for them. We get to know that as we proceed and what will play out at the level of the Senate. And coming back to the Mlembe Nation, ANC wants Osotsi committed to civil jail for 4 million legal fee in what is said to be owing the party, alongside Angela Gadoni Wambura and Ibrahim Member, who were listed as defendants in a civil appeal matter, owe the party an estimated 4.5 million. And away from that, coming to the aspect of also party wrangles, Jubilee is broke as declared by the Auditor General, and the fight of millions for shillings that is within the Jubilee party has taken a new twist after it emerged that the ruling party or the ruling outfit is in fact broke and relying on well-wishers and donators to sustain the party. The party fight exposes its poor state. It depends on well-wishers despite receiving billions and billions that have been given on board. And of course, this report comes in the wake of renewed wrangles within the Jubilee party, pitting faction allied to Deputy President William Ruto and those ones allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta over time or over the funds, where on Monday the party's Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositani demanded accountability in the use of money, including monthly contributions from party governors, senators, MPs and MCAs as a contributor and person who pays this particular amounts of money. So of course this is going to take a different twist. Remember, those ones allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta, that is the Kieleweke faction, calling upon removal of Kositani from the party in what they considered as, bridging or going against what is the party's policy. And Auditor General declared the party technically insolvent with liabilities far exceeding its assets. And Deputy Secretary Caleb Kositani maintained that Jubilee's elected members had paid this 10,000 and it's important that they get accountability from it. Read the BBI report first before you sign or before you proceed to say anything or even vote it in. This is according to, of course, Anglican bishop, that is Kositani, the Anglican Archbishop, that is Ole Sapit, right there, of course, calling upon Kenyans to ensure that they get to engage in conversations on how to collectively address their problems and ensure that out of the BBI report, if at all it has to sail through, then the interests of the people of Kenya are captured accordingly. And crossing over to page 6, Ruto takes jab at Uhuru over House changes. Deputy President William Ruto turns to Bible comfort, of course, to comfort his ousted lieutenants, quoting from the book of Colossians 3:23 on his Twitter page. He's been considered as a person who's maintained the studious silence in regards to the purge that has been ongoing within the Jubilee party, especially mated upon his own allies. But here he has said that it is only important that they focus on what it is that has been channeled to them or has been awarded to them and do it diligently, as though they are doing it to God. So yes, more or less what is playing out in matters politics of the Jubilee, and of course the reconstitution of committees that took center stage or that played out, and Ruto's thinly veiled attack at his boss came at the National Assembly, concluded the exercise to reconstitute these committees, and the move has seen his key allies removed from groups, as I have said. while President and Opposition Leader Raila Odinga are set to receive the BBI report anytime soon, which among other things is expected to recommend a referendum on constitutional changes that are likely to yield an expanded executive. And also out here, Senate team to summon ex-Attorney General Muigai over former health CS over medical kits. This is also an interesting view here on matters corruption, and a Senate committee established to investigate the medical equipment service project that summoned former Attorney General Githu Muigai and former Health Cabinet Secretary Cleopa Mailu to appear before it. That should be next Wednesday, as former Health Permanent Secretary Dr. Hadija Kasachon has also been summoned to appear before them. And equally important, they said that the Senate says that some witnesses, a company called Esteem, were indeed to finish a cross-examining and have get to the bottom of this engagement in affair. Of course, these also the companies that have been working in regards to this particular reports that are expected to be projected on the same. So we'll be following up on this story come Wednesday and update you on what will play out in terms of the same. This year, crossing over to the COVID-19 issues right here in the country, blow to COVID-19 fight, state abandons the testing, and 20 centers that were collecting samples have closed down, opening doors for private labs to make a kill. But the biggest question then continues, how exactly can we trust, at what point should we trust the testing activities that are ongoing in the country, and how legit they are? Remember the discrepancies that have been cited for the longest of time, especially at that point of the border level where you find that in Kenya you tested positive, you cross over to Tanzania, you're negative, or vice versa. And other borders, of course, raising eyebrows as to how much we should proceed to trust the testing processes that are ongoing as it stands today. And a record of 570 virus patients recover in a single day. That's quite huge, and that's one of the best news that we have received so far in terms of dealing with COVID-19 as the country. This is also at a point whereby the health CS has fired warning shots to Lancet after it recorded discrepancies in their results where they tested some patients positive, and then of course this extending to other facilities where of course these very same patients were tested negative. So that's more like it. And we cross over to a different page here. Yes, and this one is the cartoon edition. The government and dialogue. The teachers are out there calling upon the government to give them something because of the stalemate that we're witnessing today on matters education. And yes, the dialogue and the chessboard down there acting complicated. Coming out to appear so complicated for the government to be able to figure out what next for the teachers, what next for the education sector, what next for the students. Indeed, quite a twist that has gotten CS Magoha also at that point of, just limbo, I would want to say, not knowing what to capture next. And let's cross over to some beat of what is happening on the international scene and courtesy of BBC, and of course just painting a picture of how COVID-19 has been a menace, not just of course right here in the country, but across the world, and bringing up a clear picture of what exactly this has been devastating in Brazil. And here it is just in pictures how coronavirus swept through Brazil, and as you can see, the numerous graves down there. This, even as a majority of us keep asking whether indeed it is legit that the virus is real and it is in the country. So Brazil's coronavirus outbreak has been one of the world's most severe, with more than 2 million cases recorded since March. That is quite huge. The official total reached 2 million and 151 on Thursday, according to Health Ministry figures. In fact, it is the second worst affected country behind the United States. More than 74,000 people have died with the virus there, and owing to a lack of testing, the true figures are believed to be even higher. And I think this is also the scenario across different parts of the world, where indeed lack of testing is proving to be a huge challenge towards the fight of COVID-19. And another story here, Twitter hacked, and FBI investigates the major attack. This is a big deal, one of the biggest major attacks on Twitter ever in history. And of course, the accounts of key prominent figures being hacked, the likes of Kanye West, the like of Obama, and right here Bill Gates, and the likes of Elon Musk. And it's pretty much unfortunate, a report coming out here. The FBI has launched an investigations after these hackers hijacked Twitter accounts on a number of high-profile U.S. figures in an apparent Bitcoin scam. The accounts appear to have been compromised in order to perpetuate cryptocurrency fraud, as said by the Bureau, urging the public to be vigilant at this particular time. So much so, being read into this, lots of malice, others arguing, why is it that, well, the president's account was not hacked? And some people reading so much of politics and what would take center stage in regards to this. Of course, it's something that is developing. We'll be following up on the same and getting the reports that have been presented by the FBI. And coronavirus UN makes record of $10.3 billion US appeal for pandemic fight. Here it is, the United Nations is making an appeal for $10.3 billion US dollars, of course, culminating to 8.2 billion euros to help fight the coronavirus pandemic in largest ever fundraising call. The UN says that up to 265 million people could face starvation by the end of the year because of the impact that has been felt courtesy of COVID-19. And now the money will be used for low-income and fragile countries. That is, of course, the United Nations warned that the failure to act could undo decades of development initially asked for by $2 billion US in its first coronavirus appeal in March. So the coronavirus pandemic is having a huge impact on the world's poorest, that is, of course, across the world, Africa being hit some more or even hard, in as much as maybe the numbers are not as high in comparison to other different parts of the world. So yes, that appeal is probably necessary so that we are able to collectively, as a global fraternity, come up with solutions of dealing with these issues. And EU leaders meet in push for COVID-19 recovery deal. This is obviously on a virtual meeting, and EU leaders met on Friday, or are going to meet on Friday, that is today, for the first face-to-face summit since the coronavirus crisis, with low expectations of a deal. And of course, post-COVID stimulus packages, looking at, approximately 670 billion euros out there. The main issue is how much of the recovery fund will be handed out in grants and how much in loans. And they also need to agree on a 7-year budget worth another 1.7 trillion. And of course, also, German Chancellor Angela Merkel warned ahead of the summit that the positions are still far apart. The Brussels meeting is due to continue on Saturday, but EU leaders may need longer to reach a deal. And a French official said that the agreement this weekend was possible, but certainly needed to be wrapped up by the end of the summer. And why is the fund so tricky? You get details of it right here. Of course, it is a developing story. We also get to understand some more in regards to the same. Another story, New South Wales erosion, huge swells leave homes at risk of collapse. And here, as you can see, it's pretty much unfortunate. Huge waves have pumped the Australian state of New South Wales, eroding some coastal areas and putting homes at risk in regards to the same. We drop on that on Matters International. There's still so much so that is happening. We'll be taking you through what is happening on the roads, feedback from the people who are using the roads this morning after this short break, and much, much more as we cross over to the aspect of discussion after this break. right, welcome back to Morning Cafe. It is that time of us just delving into deep into understanding the current stories that are taking center stage right here. We take a look at, of course, the surging numbers of COVID-19 and the questionable results that we have today. Of course, we also take a look at some bit of politics, the handshake and how much it has held grip at the level of parliament, COVID-19 within the counties and what it means, even as we strengthen the fight amidst, governors saying that in the event that they're not successful with this, they might have to proceed and lock down their respective counties. And also, the closing down of Pumwani maternity in terms, of course, of dealing with COVID-19 too, and where it places us as a people. And it's a bit of, corruption issues that are taking center stage right here in the country. We take a look at the KEMSA tender saga that have been ongoing. Of course, theft of donor money, money that is meant to deal with COVID-19 and many other issues. Karibu sana. And joining us this morning is Joseph Simeha, who's an information executive, and we also have Justice Juma, the leader, Justice and Freedom Party. Good evening, good morning, gentlemen. Oh my God, I'm still sleeping. What just happened there?
Good morning, Linda.
Morning, that's a good one.
You well? Liz will wake you up if you're still asleep this morning.
Well, sometimes some of us barely get enough sleep, so every other time you're thinking sleep, but all the same, we're here.
Right, it's a beautiful morning for Kenyans.
It is, but a little bit chilly. I don't know when you stepped out of the house just yet.
Oh, I'm yet to, but thanks to those who have braved the cold, and like you has gone to the studio, and they are doing their best to build the country. All we can do is join them and support them. Cheer our fellow citizens up.
All right, thank you, Joseph. I would want to say, I hope I'll be forgiven to say that it's been a minute. We have missed you here.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Yes, but it's always my pleasure. And as I told you guys, I'm always available.
Pleasure
if and
too.
when you let me know that you need me to engage, I'm always available.
Yeah. All right, Karibu sana. And I think in the best interest of time, we'll delve into this conversation. And I don't even have that question answer, Phil. I just want us to discuss and expound some more on our take on the bleak COVID-19 cases and the numbers, the way they are surging by the day, and even worse, the questionable results that we are getting today. For a moment, the Ministry of Health acknowledging and silently closing down, about 20 labs that have been considered to be giving out or testing, with not proper, of course, testing kits that we supposed, hence not giving us the best of results or the best of cases that we have. I mean, this is something that the Ministry of Health has been denying for the longest of time, arguing that whatever it is what has been standardized by the World Health Organization. But here we are today. We're talking about discrepancies. What does it speak? Joseph.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's to me. Okay. Sorry, there appears to be a bit of a delay.
Yeah. I realize that.
Yeah, there appears to be a bit of a delay. But just signal me if I should go ahead and respond to what you just asked.
Well, if I can pick the question, I got it clear.
Okay.
Yeah, because the question of authenticity of some of the tests being conducted in the country, and if Kenya should really continue trusting them, is a bit worried, especially with Lancet. Remember, Lancet had a bit of questions where they tested some of this, especially St. Andrews. They had tests that were done which came out positive. But when these tests were taken for further verification in the government institution, they came negative. And also remember the case of Kiambu MP, Judy Njomo's mother, who was tested positive. But when they took him for further verification in the government institution, she tested negative. And of course, I have a very close experience with some of my friends who are doing training in Kabarak University. And apparently, the waiters who were waiting on them, 2 of them were declared positive. And the entire, this was actually the Ministry of Education directors.
Yeah.
And they were training teachers on post-COVID education management. And actually they were close to over 74 officials at Kabarak University. And all of them had to be detained, as in quarantine, on the 12th day. That is when the tests were verified the 3rd time. All the tests, actually, the 2 tests came negative, but the initial one was positive before they were quarantined. So some of these tests, yes, also are raising a lot of questions. And I think these are also added to the lack of trust that Kenyans have been having. You've seen KOT really castigating some of the government measures, especially when it comes to COVID-19 results. You saw their response to Borale when he came out declaring his COVID status. And I think this is what has been bringing out the negative stigma that Kenyans are having in terms of responding to the results that they are given by various organizations.
Governance expert, apologies for that. I was just taking up with some days where, of course, we knew you as an information executive at some point. But anyway, that is subject to some other time or discussion on some other time or a different platform. What do you make of these numbers? Yes, of course, Kiambu picking up and the rise is so high, shooting up pretty fast. And all this burden has been, put on the counties to see or to foresee us to that point where we'll say that we've been able to deal with COVID-19. But the governors seem to be shying away from this. Yesterday, upon an address by the chair of Council of Governors, arguing that, in the event that this gets to a bad point, I'm afraid that as counties will decide to lock ourselves down or lock ourselves up.
Yeah. Let me just, first of all, make a quick comment on the previous question. In my opinion, overall responsibility lies with government. This is not a usual situation. This is a pandemic. This is a very unusual public health crisis. So responsibility for overall coordination has to lie with government. This is not something that you just leave private actors like, Lancet and others to play whatever role they are playing without any coordination with government institutions. And then how this private and any other institution that plays a role like laboratories, they don't do that in a vacuum. They do that under, some kind of coordination, some kind of supervision by public authorities. So I would be very reluctant to condemn Emory or condemn Lancet or condemn anyone. I would say the failure of responsibility is on government, because it really should be the one to ensure that it coordinates the response to this public pandemic. On governors, on counties and preparedness, I think again I would just indict our preparedness, our governance preparedness, because remember, health is a devolved function. From the beginning, we as a nation should have built the capacity of counties, and when I say we, I mean this should have been led by the national government, because counties are new governments just from 2013. So national government should have led a robust process of investing in and building the capacity of county governments to provide for all the functions that they have, including health. But clearly, it did not. Even where they've done what they could, they've been hurdles of corruption, extreme corruption in the management of health within the counties. And the institutions responsible for checking down ODPP, DCI, and so on, haven't done their best to send a message that health and other functions are so important to our welfare as a nation that we're not going to allow you to continue being corrupt in the discharge of these functions. So overall, we have that problem of governance. It's a problem actually of governance, which now is manifesting itself right now, unfortunately, in form of a public health crisis.
All right, and looking at that, Dr. it is unfortunate to note that, confidently there are people who are hitting their chest coming out there to lie to Kenyans that, monies have been put on board, or monies that have been put on board to deal with COVID-19 have been used accordingly. But the reports are totally different from what we witnessed on ground. The other day, CS for Health, confirming and saying that they're going to appear and present, the papers, the accountability processes, of course, to the people. But up until today, we've not been able to get that. The latest scandal is from KEMSA, and of course, the tenders that have been awarded, mysterious entities for that matter, grants for health to mysterious entities for that matter. Just painting a picture of how much graft has held grip, even as we deal with COVID-19. Just how best can we wash this out for the sake of the interest of the people of Kenya?
Thanks, Linda. I know there's been a bit of technical network challenge. I missed some part of your question, but if I can get you right, is that my response on regards to management of the COVID response funds and the corruption allegation around it, especially the KEMSA circumstances, which, yes, actually, we told the government this and advised the government a while ago that the issue of COVID, a national pandemic, this is actually a global pandemic, which you cannot actually leave it exclusively to the government to manage. It needed everybody's input and involvement. It needed everybody's participation, individual responsibility, collective responsibility, or private responsibility joined together with national responsibility. And sincerely speaking, we've all seen the fruits of the government and the employees of the government. If that's a fair statement, because in the past, their wanton trust, especially when it comes to honesty with public funds, that goes without asking. Kenyans have never trusted their government. They've always questioned the government when it comes to handling national resources. And here is a case where we are dealing with a life and death situation. We are dealing with our way of life. A case where religious organizations are closed, schools are closed. And then it has a challenge actually messed up our economy badly. People are losing jobs. It is a situation of life and death, and it required our best foot forward. We advised the government that it was not a time to reward interesting politicians or interesting corporators, but it was a time to invest and partner with individuals who have the citizens' interests at heart. People who can also lay their life for the citizen. But the moment they started using this as a charity case, where they're even nationalizing philanthropy, where they are locking out private sector input, where they're not engaging citizen effectively, because the person who can flatten the curve is the citizen. And the best approach which could have brought the citizen to on board are the concept that they've inverted. They are using the inverted approach where they ought to have engaged the citizen first, do mass test, isolate those who are sick, release the citizen back to the economy, and deal with those in isolation center. These people, right from the first day when this thing was blown by one patriotic Kenyan, that person was taken into custody. He lost his job. Thereafter, you saw the flights that were allowed in. And the blatant mismanagement of this entire process sometimes leaves some of us wondering whether is it by design that the government is allowing this thing to spread, and if they're allowing it to spread, what would be the interest? Is it for receiving funds and fleecing them the way we're seeing them disappearing through, look at the KEMSA tender. So the government actually has not won Kenyan trust. They've mishandled this process, and yes, it goes without asking. I would not leave this process entirely to the county government, because this is a national pandemic, and this is a global pandemic, which require national and a collective approach, which where the government, national government, participate with the county government, and collectively we come up with relevant solution to address this thing once and for all.
All right, Joseph, as a governance expert, then how we handle this, how the government handles this, is key for us to be able to successfully, deal with the pandemic. In as much as yes, it's a global issue, and. According to, of course, critics, they say that this is more than a health crisis. It goes to that point where, of course, it has a potential of creating devastating social, economic, and political crisis at large. So, of course, it will leave us with deep scars based on how we're going to handle this. What are the best proposals that are there that you suppose that the government has not implemented, the government has not taken advantage of, that probably would be helpful?
First of all, let me just observe that if this government could do better than it has done, it would already have done it. How many months has it been since March, and we are now in July? So it may be frustrating for us to entertain any more expectations in terms of better performance. So perhaps this is the best. What we are saying is the best. This government can perform. So we may have to look at that reality. That doesn't stop us from demanding better. And as my colleague there says, demanding better means that demanding that the national government works in coordination with county governments, and they together mobilize citizens of this republic to respond to this pandemic from an informed point of view. Not a point of view of issuing threats, not a point of view of allocating blame or assigning blame to each other, not a point of view of seeking to frighten, so on and so forth, but an informed point of view, where we all pull in the same direction. We do not blame, but that requires leadership. Therefore, in my opinion, the national government has failed. It almost presents itself as we as national government versus you, the people, versus you, county governments. And every so often when I listen to the Minister, Cabinet Secretary for Health, he's almost always saying that we as government have done what we can. Now the problem is you, citizens. Now the problem is you, county governments. Yet their role is to provide leadership for us to act together. So that, in my opinion, is the demand we still need to make. That, look, can we all pull in the same direction, led by you, national government? Because this thing is not county per county, it's national. Can we all pull in the same direction, led by you, national government, so that our response is from an informed point of view, but not from a point of view of fear and panic and blame on each other.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in terms of our character, our national character, our behavior as a nation, the things you see in form of scandals at KEMSA, at the Ministry of Health, within county governments, not a surprise at all. Do not be surprised. Because even this, it appears, hasn't yet taught us a lesson. As a nation, we should change our character, our national character. I am hoping that we get into a process where we can be jolted to have a dialogue, a national dialogue, through which we can be persuaded and be convicted that we need to change our national character. Because that is what determines how we face enemies, all manner of enemies, together as a nation.
Right, our morals have collapsed, and it seems like we are not making any efforts to just go back to that point where we'll be able to regain them. Let's take a short break, gentlemen. We'll be coming back with some more, even as we also cross over to some bit of politics and how much the handshake, is of course working. If at all not working, is wreaking havoc for some other people who are not in agreement to what it is that it brings aboard. to Morning Cafe. Joseph Simeha, governance expert, and Justice Juma, leader, Justice and Freedom Party, the gentlemen that we have on set this morning via Skype as we expound some more on the issues that are taking center stage. And COVID seems to be, yes, taking the better part of the news-making headlines. And speaking of which, we had left at that point where, yes, our morals have collapsed and we need to review that as a country. And just looking at the scenario of what played out in Pumwani, and it's pretty much unfortunate that the maternity is closed, one of the biggest in the nation. Where does it take us? I mean, still again, painting a picture of how bad the health scenario is in the country, Dr. Justice? Doctor? Are we able to get Dr. Ari? Dr. Ari, we're not able to get you. I don't know whether Joseph Simeha's side will be much better, so he would react on that. Today we're having some bit of hiccups, but all the same, we'll streamline that. Joseph, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very clearly.
Yeah. Of course, the Pumwani saga, and not really saga, but yes, the scenario that played out in Pumwani, and leading to this entity being closed, or this facility, the maternity being closed. Where does it place us?
Again, for me, a reflection of our national character, which reflects at its worst in our institutions of governance and public institutions.
Yeah.
And the biggest dimension here is secrecy, unnecessary secrecy.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we have a pandemic that is ravaging the entire world. We know that it doesn't choose, that it can affect anyone in any institution, any home, any space.
Yeah.
So that we would, as a nation and as a government particularly, should have been making information available so that our approach to this is not secrecy, but sharing information.
Mm-hmm.
That there should be no surprise at all that health workers at Pumwani or any other institution are infected. They are Kenyans, they are in this world, they are exposed.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the approach of this government is that hide. Do not show that our health workers are exposed and they do not have the personal protection equipment that they need to have.
Mm-hmm. So when we hide, Joseph, then, I mean, how successful are we going to be in dealing with this? Because this hide and seek game is what has gotten the common mwananchi at some point arguing that, you know what, do you even know anyone who has COVID-19? Probably the government is playing games on us.
I think so. I totally believe so. And it's extremely unfortunate that we have to have this kind of approach to management of public affairs, that you hide and you want to pretend to show, a very good image of your profile, but what is behind it is really dirty. Whereas for this kind of challenge, and it's a challenge that is that doesn't discriminate, you provide information, you educate people, you come out openly. But unfortunately, we have public institutions, people in charge of governance, whose character is trying to show the best profile while you are doing, if anything, you are doing the worst. So, and it's not going to change overnight. That's my argument. Yes, we must continue to put pressure on government, but let us moderate our expectations. If this government, if it could do better, it would already have done it. So let's just insist on putting pressure, but know that the ultimate solution is in sorting out our governance. If we don't sort out our governance, we will never sort out our health, we will never sort out our education and many, many other sectors of our society. What they call development, building railways and whatnot and highways, if they insist on putting attention on that and ignore health and ignore education, and ignore just basically our environment. Use those things. So it's really us to put pressure that we ought and we deserve a better form of governance, public governance.
All right, and I'm looking at this, and for a moment there are many sides of the coin, because you realize that I was just going through a story today morning, and looking at how much it's been a devastating picture in Brazil in terms of the issue of COVID-19, the numerous millions of people who've contracted the disease, and equally looking at the other side, our East African brothers, that is Tanzania. and how much they have pulled a carefree, a careless attitude towards dealing with COVID-19. And coming back home and looking at the fact that, yes, we're trying out to reach out to we're trying to match up to the world in terms of dealing with COVID-19, but still we have discrepancies in terms of the numbers that we have. Of course, looking at the projections as of yesterday and the arguments that come on board in terms of, the discrepancies that are there with the testing, it's a clear indication that probably the numbers could be more or even less, depending on how you want to view it. So when you look at these three case studies, these three case scenarios, Dr. Justus, if you can hear me, I mean, should we then say that, yes, Tanzania in a way has been... Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Linda, loud and clear.
What does it speak of these three countries and general aspect of view of COVID-19?
Well, this is a global pandemic, and response have been different. Countries respond differently, and this is why we were asking our president also to what we are and then how we are. And Tanzania took its own approach because, one, this is a pandemic which you can only understand, deal with if you understand it clearly. The medics tells us that the virus itself does not kill, but the existing conditions are what kill individuals. The explanation of this virus also actually, Linda, has been varied. The individuals who first called it a 5G oscillating within the atmosphere and drying away oxygen as a result, leading to respiratory deficiency. And the individuals who are bringing it out as a respiratory disorder that is caused by a virus, which causes a heavy flu. Though some people say the flu and the symptoms that it have, it does not bring usual sputum that people expect. So there have been a lot of a question surrounding the coronavirus itself. And what the government has done, instead of scientifically explaining it in a simple concept, they've only emphasized on preventive measures, on how to wash your hands, how to keep distance, how to mask up. And as a result, actually, some intellectuals who are not convinced by simple reasoning, you've seen them, actually have also influenced people in various directions. And these are the things that are bringing contradiction. I saw Madagascar took its stand, and they said if it's a virus, they came up with their own home remedy. Uganda took a stand. Actually, Magufuli said there's nothing like that. You remember his famous papai test, the goat test, and all that.
But the graves also in Brazil are so many. So just how comfortable can the Tanzanians sit and say, yes, the president says there's nothing like this, we've done this. I mean, does it show that COVID is not there, or does it show there are lots of issues in terms of the discrepancies that we witness with the testing, capabilities that we have?
One underlying issue, Linda, is the source. I mean, the understanding of the source of this virus. It began in China, and the Chinese called it American virus. The Americans have called it Chinese virus. And knowing the two have been engaging on global trade wars, and then treating this as a biological war. There are also those possibilities where a specific nation cannot stand back and rubbish. If it was a real war by design, then yes, they can hit you back. And we've seen the cases where those countries which denied this and refuted the actual virus and how it kills, you've seen how they've been counterattacked. Like now Brazil is one of them. And Madagascar right now is they're experiencing deaths which are not explainable. And I'm praying that should not befall Tanzania as well. But Kenya here, where the virus has been treated and embraced, we've seen the measures that have been taken by our government.
Yeah.
And to date, majority of our populace are still not very well convinced regarding the actual virus. And as a result, you've seen the stigma. People are staying away from hospitals. People are not going for tests. And as my brother said earlier, instead of the government taking full responsibility, because it is not the citizen who brought this virus to themselves. This problem actually is been brought on us by the government. If anything, because the government ought to have closed the borders, is the government, actually the president who is commander-in-chief, who is sworn to protect our borders, to protect us, even including in such circumstances. But in return, the government has taken measures that seems to actually victimize the citizen instead of taking certain responsibility, whereas the citizens are willing to also participate and take individual responsibility. You remember when the citizen cried out to the president that the president, you've closed our economies, you've closed our jobs, you've sent us home, we are in the houses, we don't have sources of income. Can you kindly talk with the landlord to give us rent relief? The president came out and just declared that it is all up to you, discuss with your landlords, and left the citizens the mercies of the landlord. And there have been no proper engagement in terms of social relief.
Right.
When it comes to the food, the health, them at home, you can see the things that are taking place. Now, apart from the Ministry of Health, millions of tea and breakfast, and now we are seeing the bundled procurement by KEMSA, and all of this boiled down to the reality in Kenya, whether this thing is real. Because if it is real, we would put our best mechanism, our best measures, we will make sure that this thing is defeated. But the way the government is handling, it's kind of like not giving this thing the way it deserves, if it is real.
And the irony of it all is that with the issues that are still happening right now, the government, some of the figures in the government have successfully playing politics in favor of them, looking at what is happening, introducing us to the next topic on the handshake and how much it has held grip at the level of the parliament. You've seen with the changes in the committees, the respective committees in parliament, and all this working in favor of the handshake, or all this working, in regards to what the two parties within the handshake, want it to be the direction. So when we look at how politics is being played in the country, others would argue that maybe it's not the best time to do politics. But then again, these people appeal to politics, and importantly, we keep saying that life has to move on amid all this. The handshake and how much it has held grip in Parliament. Simeha, what do you say?
I think first of all is, these individuals are not actually paid to politics. They are paid to use politics as a platform to organize society, so that society makes progress. Not just to politics, but to use politics as a platform to organize society, so that our society may develop and so on. With regards to what is happening in Parliament, what has been happening in Parliament, led by political parties, I see no surprises, because political parties do have a right to organize themselves in whatever form they wish to achieve certain goals. Now, it's really up to those of us who are members of these political parties to question and put pressure on the leadership of the parties, where we feel that the leadership of the parties are pushing an agenda that is not in tandem with our expectations as members of these political parties.
And Tangatanga has been unable to do that. Do you suppose Tangatanga has been unable to do that? Because, this is happening so much so within the Jubilee Party. And while the Tangatanga guys would be out there talking and complaining, it looks like they've not been able to just streamline the party leadership.
And it's a question of how you manage political power. That is why they are unable. And that's, again, no surprise. That you have to have many ways of managing political power, either by your ability to reward or your ability to punish. So if one faction in a political party determines that the rival faction that neither has ability to reward nor to punish, they will do whatever they want. So what you are seeing in Jubilee is a manifestation of that, the management of political power.
Yeah.
People negotiate with you not because they love you in politics, but they negotiate with you because they either fear you or they're afraid that they may lose out on something that you may benefit them.
Okay.
So what you see is management of political power, and some people are losing, and that happens. If they had the ability to exert their influence and power within their party, the other side that is often called Kieleweke would have negotiated with them.
Yeah.
But it appears Kieleweke is not afraid of them, is not interested in negotiating with them. It would rather just cut them down, and that's really the nature of the management of political power. I suppose the bigger question is for us as citizens of Kenya, because they may be doing this, these leaders of these parties, particularly Jubilee, may be doing this for their personal, perhaps, interests or group interests. It's up to us as citizens to read into that and see whether that aligns with our collective interests.
Yeah.
And if not, to send signals to them that you can do that. If it doesn't align with our collective Kenyan interests, we will also cut you down, because even us as citizens, we need to demonstrate to political leaders that we have the ability to participate in the management of political power.
All right. And looking at that, development to be felt, or for the obvious reasons, for the people to benefit from the party that they have elected on board. Sanity within this party is important. And for the longest of time, looking at how events have unfolded within the Jubilee Party, there's been calls, directed to the president, kindly put your house in order, kindly put your house in order. And to what seems like putting his house in order, some others again have come out to say that this is actually not putting your house in order, but targeting allies to Deputy President William Ruto. Dr. Justus Juma, what do you make of this? And again, amid all this fixing of the house, it's clear that, again, Wanjiku is going to miss out on development that is supposed to be spearheaded by the ruling party.
Actually, that's the challenge that is surrounding the entire move that the government has been taking since this, in the midst of this pandemic. Because political philosophy, political actions have not been resonating with the actual citizens' interest, especially at this difficult moment. But whether handshake has tight grip on parliament, that remains questionable, Linda. Because recently the parliament passed a very anti-handshake philosophy bill. When the last bill they passed on National Revenue Allocation Bill, which were the bill actually that is intended at distributing or allocating revenue based on one man, one vote. And Linda, some of us to date are still questioning the verifiability of the last census, because last census, some of us wanted to marry it with the registration of persons, the death registration of deaths, even the voter registration.
Yeah.
If you were to tally correctly, still you might realize some doubts.
Yeah.
A number of people even went to court to challenge the census report. But generally, the census report was geared towards revenue allocation. And recently, we saw the philosophy that was underlying the census result, which we got, because some people wanted to use it to disadvantage certain region, and some were using it also to add advantage to a specific region, and we know where those regions lies.
Yeah. And
Linda, if you can visit the presidential development delivery units, visit the website and look at the projects that have been accomplished on that website, and look at the regions where they are located, you will be so surprised. And those are the challenges. If we backtrack back in history, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the founding president Jomo Kenyatta had a departure based on marginalization, especially on economic revenue allocation. Revenue allocation was a form of reward then to those who were loyal, or to tribalists who could play at the whims of the tyranny then.
Yeah.
And to date, historically, that informed the bloodbath that has always been surrounding our politics. And if you go back to handshake, handshake actually is reflected in BBI. And one of the philosophy in BBI is national unity, where they are rendering national ethos, national vision, and you cannot achieve national unity with this philosophy of the current or the bill that they passed on revenue allocation.
Yeah.
Because the marginalized community in this current revenue allocation bill will suffer. Some of them, actually, their population went down because of marginalized or biased economic allocation. And to date, those who were privileged to enjoy biased allocation are the ones whose population has thrived. And now they're using that again to look down upon the other communities. And this, as you saw, especially the MPs and the representatives from those counties, they reacted and they reacted nationally.
Right.
And these are the things which leaves us questioning whether the BBI or handshake is still really valid, because if such a bill can see the light of the day, and here we are thinking that handshake is having a tight grip in Parliament, I doubt if that bill was something to go by or to use to translate whether BBI is legit or whether the handshake is progressive. Then I would say that handshake probably is in his deathbed, and the message has been sent from that geographical location on the direction that they want to take.
And as we wind up on that very note, the question then, of course, is, as what we've been told, or the clarion call that every other Kenyan should be involved in understanding what is within the Jubilee, within the BBI, of course, what resolutions will be presented, so that moving forward, you know whether indeed there's a stake for you as the common mwananchi. Gentlemen, time is not so much on our side, so I have to say kwaheri this morning, and looking forward to have you some other time as we expound some more on issues that will be affecting us or are affecting us as our people. Dr. Justice Juma, Leader, Justice and Freedom Party, Joseph Simeha, Governance Expert, thank you so much for your time this morning. And we cross over to Matters Entertainment with Nancy Kimuru.